Hey guys, GradysMom here with Cooking Series Volume 20. This week I'm focusing on my favorite side dishes, and today I'm going to be making a loaded potato casserole. So it's pretty much chunky mashed potatoes, but they're loaded style. And what I mean by that is they have all kinds of yummy things in them. So this recipe has cheddar cheese in it, some chives, some crunchy onions, both within the potato as well as on top. And then I'm going to use these real bacon bits. Now you can use regular old sliced bacon. You just have to cook it, bake it, fry it, and slice it up before you throw it in. These were actually hiding in my pantry, so I want to go ahead and use them up since they were hiding in the back and I didn't even know that I had them. So I'm going to go ahead and use these just to save me a step of having to bake off a sheet of a pan of bacon. So again, it's going to have all the flavors of a loaded baked potato, but in a side dish casserole style. You're also going to need some butter, some salt and pepper, and you will need a splash of milk to mash the potatoes, but I'm not going to show the milk because you guys know what milk looks like. So the first thing I'm going to do is get these boiled and mash them up, and I'm going to be making one tray to freeze and one tray for a neighbor. A neighbor of mine is just having a rough time, so I am bringing her dinner tonight. I have a whole rotisserie chicken that I purchased for her at Publix, and I'm going to bring the whole chicken over. I'm going to bring this dish here, one of these two dishes here, with the loaded potato casserole all ready to go, and then I'll just bring her one of those Dole complete salads in a bag. So she'll have a whole dinner tonight, the chicken, this side dish, as well as a salad. So I just want to make her life a little bit easier, so I figured I would also go ahead and film a video since this is one of my favorite all-time side dishes. So let me go ahead and get started. Okay guys, so I cut up 8 potatoes. I used a mixture of large and medium potatoes. Now I am making 2 portions of this like I showed you. So one I'm going to give to my neighbor and one portion I'm going to wrap up real good and put in my freezer. So it is a nice side dish for me all ready to cook. So if you're only going to make one portion, you might want to use closer to 4 to 5 large to medium potatoes rather than 8. But if you did want to do the same thing as me and make a double portion, so maybe one to enjoy tonight or today and then one to freeze, that would always be a really good option as well. I find that sometimes if you're already going to be making a certain dish, why not just double it and have an extra portion for yourself? So my water is just coming to a boil. I salted the water really well, and I'm going to go ahead and throw my potatoes in for about 15 to 20 minutes until they're fork tender and ready to be mashed. Okay guys, so my potatoes are boiling away, and what I'm going to do while they are boiling is prep this big bowl here with the loaded potato filling. So I will drain the potatoes when they're done, and then I'll return them to the pot they are boiling in, and then I will mash them with a little butter, salt and pepper, and milk in that same pot. Just because that pot is hot and it's starchy, so they will mash better. But in this bowl here, I'm gonna go ahead now and get the loaded part of the potato ready. So I'm gonna throw in some chives that I chopped up pretty fine. And I love chives. They're just a very mild onion flavor, and I really like the pop of color that they give as well. So again, this is a double recipe, so I will have it typed up down below the exact way you're seeing it. So if you don't need that much, you can just cut my amount in half. Next, I am getting the crunchy onions open, and these are very similar to the French's onions that we all love on the green bean casserole. So I put about a cup in this bowl. I am reserving some for the top of the casserole because I'm going to top it with these onions as well as some cheese. Next, I'm going to get in some bacon, and I'm putting in a good 1.5 cups of bacon. I like it really bacony and really loaded. They don't call it loaded for no reason. Next, I am putting in some cheese. I'm going to put in about a cup. And I'm going to reserve some, like I said, for the tops. So that is a good cup there. I think I'm going to add just a little bit of black pepper. And I think I'm going to hold off on the salt because of the bacon. So now I'm going to get a big tablespoon. I'm just going to kind of toss this around lightly, just so it's combined. And I like mine very bacony, as you can see. And the crunchy onion and the salty bacon and the melty cheese are just such a nice combination of flavors, and then that little mild chive flavor as well. I would say hold off on the salt because again, the bacon and those onions do have some salt in them. So this is all ready. So I'm just gonna set this aside and wait for my potatoes to get done, and we will go from here. Okay guys, potatoes actually only took about 12 minutes. So definitely when you're boiling potatoes, don't lose track of time because you don't want them to be mush. You want them to be fork tender. So you can stick a fork in it with no problem without it being too mushy or too hard. So they are back in the original pot like I mentioned. I'm gonna grab my milk. And I'm gonna start out by adding a splash of milk, and I mean a splash. So that looks good. So less than 1/4 cup. Next, I am going to add some butter. I'm gonna go ahead and get about 2 tablespoons, maybe 2.5 tablespoons, give or take. Okay? I'm gonna go ahead now and mash them up. And I'm not gonna mash them extremely fine. I want them to be just slightly chunky. Hopefully this pan is not fogging up my lens. So slightly chunky. This is such a good side dish. I've never met anyone who didn't like it. Maybe unless you're a vegetarian because of the bacon, obviously. So that looks pretty good as far as consistency. Hopefully you guys can see that it's a little bit chunky. Okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and get my loaded filling in there. Now it's gonna look like a lot, but remember, they don't call it loaded for no reason. You want it to be a good ratio of potato to filling. You want it to be nice and flavorful. There's quite a bit of potato here as well. So I am just gently folding this all together. And the colors are really pretty too, with the chives and the bacon and the cheese. That cheese is just starting to kind of melt into the potato. And if you guys can see, it has a nice chunkiness to it, which is what you want. Okay, so that looks pretty good. What I'm gonna do now is I'm going to spray my baking dishes and get this into the 2 baking dishes. And then I will show you how I top this casserole with more cheese and a little bit more of that crunchy onion. Okay guys, look how pretty this looks, and it's not even baked yet. So, and it's technically twice baked, if you will, almost, because the potatoes are cooked and they are going to bake in the oven so that the cheese and the topping gets all bubbly. So, I did taste it off camera. It definitely does not need salt. So, the only thing I used the salt for in this recipe was in the boiling water that I put the potatoes in, because that's just a must do for boiling potatoes. You have to add a little bit of salt to the water. It really does help. So now I'm going to top this here with just a very small amount of that onion. Not a lot, just kind of a sprinkle, just for a little bit of a crunchy effect on top. You don't want the whole thing to be covered in the onion because it is salty and there is onion inside. Lastly, I'm going to get the rest of the cheese that I reserved, and I'm going to spread it out all over the top of this, just like that. And it is ready to pop in the oven. So I think what I'm going to do is pop this in the oven so that it's all ready for them to just reheat in the microwave and eat, and they don't have to worry about anything. So that is how simple this was. I'm going to pop it in the oven like I said, and I will show you guys how delicious it looks before I wrap it up and bring it over to my neighbor. And then I have another pan of this as well that I'm going to do the same exact thing to off camera, and then that one is going to be saran wrapped and aluminum foil wrapped and put in my freezer for a rainy day when I need a nice delicious side like this. I also made 2 little teeny tiny individual portions, I guess if you will, because I had enough left over to do that. So again, I made the tray, the dish that I showed you, that is now in the oven for my neighbor. I made the other tray up the same exact way, that is in my freezer. And then these are just small little like banana bread loaf pans, the small ones, like the minis. And there's a nice, good, hearty portion. Maybe 2 people could split one, but I like to eat, so I could eat one of these by myself. So like I said, I didn't want to just waste what was left after the 2 trays. So I went ahead and just put some, packed it down real tight into the little loaf pans. And these I'm going to just saran wrap, and I haven't decided yet if I'll put them in my fridge just for like a quick lunch or something, or I might just throw these in the freezer as well with the other tray. So definitely made a lot. Again, I used 8 large potatoes. I think like 6 of the 8 were large, and then 2 were sort of medium on the larger side. So again, if you don't need this much, then feel free just to cut my amounts in half. Okay guys, it is out of the oven. It was in for about 20 minutes on 375, and it is all set to go. So I'm just gonna let this sit for just a minute. I'm going to wrap it up with some aluminum foil, and then I will bring over this along with the whole chicken and the salad in a bag for my neighbor. And I think this is just an awesome side dish. I could eat it just as a meal, and I have done that before. But with the holidays coming, if you guys are looking for something different to serve with either Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner or even New Year's, this is a real crowd pleaser, because as most of you know, almost everybody likes a loaded baked potato. So you get all the flavors in here, and it's just really, really easy. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this volume 20, my favorite side dish once again, and I will have everything typed up down below like I mentioned. Have a great day, and I will see you guys all very soon in my next video. Bye!